Hello and welcome to the 17Lands early data review for Final Fantasy. If you haven't been to one of these before, I'd like to take a look at the early data from my perspective, give you sort of my read on it. Um, we are a week in, which means that usually commons and uncommons have a pretty solid sample. Even as you can see here, we have 6,000 games or so for the rares, which is reasonable. In this particular set, we have a bonus sheet, so there's a lot of cards that don't have as much sample, and I'm not going to necessarily talk about those. I don't really spend too much time usually on the rares. I usually like to start with the the deck color data. We're back. We're back to a normal set after a 3-color set from Tarkir, so really the focus, of course, will be on these 10 2-color pairs, which is where the majority of the data comes in. And so, one thing to note about this set so far is relative balance. Like, this is pretty, I'm sure you've heard it elsewhere if you're following other Magic, limited content creators, that this is potentially one of the most balanced formats of all time, and the data and myself, my personal experience would agree with that largely. We can see that sort of your best deck is it, and actually this is an anomaly. This is very rare. I can't remember the last time that for the general population is it was the best deck. It's been the best deck for top players somewhat frequently over the past couple of years, but I can't remember the last time it was the best deck for the general arena draft population. You can see it's actually not. It's not quite drafted the most. Azorius and Boros are drafted pretty much evenly. Boros maybe a little bit. I mean, they're all very frequently we'll see one archetype in the 58, 50, like something will usually be getting close to 60% in week 1 data, and that'll usually be your best deck. In this format, the highest is 58.3, and then it really doesn't drop off much. 57.5, 57.1, 57.0. It's less than a percent drop from the best to second best, and then from the second best to the third, it's less than half a percent, and then it's really flat all the way across the board, with the exception of Gruul. Um, Interestingly, Simic is drafted the least, but I think that's mostly due to splashing. Like, Simic plus a splash is very high. Golgari plus a splash also. So yeah, again, although straight Golgari has been drafted quite a bit too. And Simic plus a splash is the winningest. No, not quite. These two decks are the winningest with the splash colors, which makes sense. That's pretty typical. Green, blue, and green, black are sort of your good basis for a splash in the set. That is true, as it is in most sets. So one thing to notice about this set, interestingly, it's pretty typical for your win rate, 55.6. Um, Nothing really out of the ordinary there, but it is pretty unusual that you have, basically, all the 2-color decks except for Gruul are above the average win rate. So again, really, a wide open format. This is the type of spread you would expect to see from like top player data, and I'll actually look at the top player data to see. Usually this is very flat for top players. And actually you can see that it's a little bit less flat than it usually is. Usually these archetypes, and over the course of the format, they will flatten out. And that's due to the rate at which they're drafted. Top players are drafting Is It the most, and then followed by Azorius and Boros. Um, I actually have yet to draft Boros in this set, which is interesting. It's strange because a lot of people, despite the balance, everybody's got to talk about best worst color. You'll hear blue is the best, red is the worst. I think that's sort of the consensus take at this current time. Green maybe down there for worst color. White's kind of doing its own thing, but is it bad necessarily? I don't know. There's really no indication in the data of what the worst color is at all, which I think is pretty rare. Top players are winning at 60%, which I think is fairly typical. We can look at the Tarkir. Now, this is, of course, over the course of the whole format, up a percentage point. That's pretty typical, though, because over time, the top players win less as the format goes on. So yeah, this is a very typical week 1 top player win rate. It's pretty much in line with what you would expect for a normal format. Um, in terms of what top players are succeeding with differently, they're having it's basically the same exact spread, uh, which is again very atypical. The Demir is maybe the one outlier. Top players succeeding more with Demir, drafting Demir more. That might be the biggest outlier in terms of differences between the two groups of the general population and the top players. Usually you'll see is it be like is it's 2% better for top players, 2.4 is 2% higher than 59.9, and if we look at everybody it's 58.3 over 55.6, which is 2.6. Nope, can't count. 2.7. So actually, Izzet is performing relatively better for the general population than it is for top users in this format, which is, I think this is the first time that's happened, maybe ever, in the history of 17 lands. I'm sure it has happened before, but it's very, very rare that that particular color combination performs well better in the hands of the average user than the top user. And when I say better, I mean relatively better, right? Like people, and this is a what really grinds my gears moment, but people sometimes do get confused about what the win rate numbers mean. When you're filtering for top users, you have to keep in mind that it's all centered around this 60% win rate number, and that's 5% higher than the all users win rate number. So it is important to keep that in mind. When if someone were to say a card is winning 5% more for top players, we can actually go look at some cards. So let's actually go do that. Let's look at some cards. Let's start with the commons. We like to start with the commons. But if you were to look at Dragoon's Wyvern, and this is for everybody, and it's winning at 59.7, and then you were to look at top users and say, oh, Dragoon's Wyvern is winning at 63.7. Well, the uninitiated might say something like, it's winning 4% more for top users. The reality is, because top users are winning 4% more than the average user, 4.5% more, it's actually performing worse relatively for top users than it is for the average user. It's still good, obviously, but you have to weight your game in hand win rate stats for top user comparisons to the overall win rate of that group. So that's something to keep in mind. Interestingly, this is an interesting little piece of information that I did not know, but we have a lot of blue cards in your top commons for top players. Not a surprise. Dreams of Laguna Combat tutorial. Divination is back again. It's back again. It's this is the first time since Dominaria United, I think, that Divination has been this good. This is actually better than the Dominaria United Divination. Well, I mean, honestly, Divination was back in the Chaos draft. That was a format where Divination was great. Blazing Bomb for top users, another card to call out. But I should probably start with everybody for the commons. And at the top again, it's actually a pretty good mix, right? Not a lot of green. It's basically just Town Greeter. Fat Chocobo's in here as well. But a pretty good mix of colors. There is a lot of blue, specifically Dream, Sahag, and Ice Magic. Like just this, your top 10, about half of it's blue. That's fairly typical that you'll see some amount of that. Um, it's hard for it to be much better than that. But really, just sort of showing a lot of strange things. Again. I will. Let's look at the top again and see how that changes. And for the top users, it's more blue. No white cards in the top for top users, uh, which is actually interesting. It's an interesting piece of information. Um, just something to keep in mind that the other colors that aren't white are performing better for top users. White appears to be maybe a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more. Or someone's doing. Wow, you're not alone. Just crushing. This is very high, also pretty low. It has been a good card actually. What is its win rate for everybody? Yeah, so that's a big jump. So that's basically like 7%, which is 3% up for top users. That's a pretty big jump for this particular card. Something to keep in mind that good players are doing. We'll start with the white cards, which we just noted were better for the average players than the top players. Oracite is your top common, White Mage's Staff, and Magitek Infantry is sort of your next level here. The cat has been a surprising performer to a certain extent. I mean, I certainly underrated it going into the format, primarily because honestly, I think its synergy with infantry is just really strong. I think that if infantry was not an artifact, I think the cat would be considerably worse. But the cat plays really well with this, despite the fact that it sort of looks like it doesn't play well because it's a 3-drop and the Magitek Infantry sort of gives you a 3-drop. So that's something. Slash of Light is a equipment dependent card. If you're playing the White Mage's Staffs, if you're playing the Paladin's Arms, the Slash of Light's very, very good. And if you aren't, you're not alone. Similar to Slash of Light, you need to sort of have the requirements for. Anything super surprising? No, all this is pretty typical. What do you expect to this card? I think people, 2 is a lot less than 3. I was not baited. There were lots of people who may have been baited into thinking this effect, was going to be one of your top white commons after the Ride's End in Ether Drift was. 3 is a lot more than 2, and also not exiling. This type of effect is not really what you want on your removal spell, especially in a color that really wants to be aggressive in this format. And I don't think this card would be very good in any format, really. I mean, not put it in, Homelands, and it's probably the best card in the set. But like, I mean, in a modern limited set, it's not really going to be anything super surprising. For top users, as we saw earlier, the You're Not Alone becomes the second best white common. Now, you wouldn't want to take it like that. Part of the reason it's the second best white common is where it's taken is 7.15. You can get them late. Infantry is a lot closer. And this is, we see this with card win rates and we see it with deck win rates. For top users, card win rates tend to condense a little bit more. There's less stratification between cards for top users. It tends to be a little more of a smoother run out because generally top users use cards when they're in the right decks, and the general population doesn't do that so much. So technically, all of these cards, including Weapons Ender, are above average win rate cards for top users. Slash of Light is the first one that isn't, which is actually a little bit of a surprise that Slash of Light doesn't really improve at all for top users. It's, just as good. It probably means that top users even are still not playing quite enough equipment with Slash of Light, would be my opinion. But yeah, White Oracite is your best white common. I think no matter how you slice it, it's just a removal spell that adds mana. It's, also an artifact. It's 4-mana non-creature, which doesn't matter a ton because it's double white, so it's hard to make that work with the blue stuff. The Alsa has White Mage's Staff at number 2, which isn't terrible. And here it is, and this is the big one. So right now, you're getting a huge edge by not drafting this card, Fate of the Suncrist. If you're drafting white, like, this is sort of a card you would like to avoid. Paladin's Arms being taken over Magitek Infantry is strange, but it actually kind of makes sense when you think about it. In pack 3, your Magitek Infantry becomes worse than Paladin's Arms if you don't have any Magitek Infantry, so I can see that being actually somewhat reasonable. Because the Alsas are not just for pack 1, they include all pack data. Chocomog over Galecat is an error, and I think that will get corrected. But yeah, you can see some of the role players a bit late in Aerithra Rescue Mission performing just fine for top users. I think this card is somewhat reasonable. And then here's the Elsa down here. Obviously, high value trick. You're Not Alone. Very, very strong card in white, and I think that is the way to draft white, is to draft it aggressively and a little bit go wide style. So let's move on to blue. Starting with, blue's got a lot of solid commons here, right? This format in general just has a lot of solid commons. I think we're, before this format, in the pre-set, I sort of was talking a little bit about how I thought this set would kind of return to the pre-play booster era in terms of feel, in terms of just like gameplay feel. And I think that the set largely has delivered on that expectation, where commons are kind of back, um, and it's more of a attrition is a little bit more meaningful than it has been in recent set environments. But combat tutorial is your second best blue common by win rate, which is interesting. Sahagin, of course, with the highest opening hand win rate for a blue common, which matters quite a bit. Sahagin is probably your best blue common. Honestly, I mean, I don't know. It's probably still Wyvern, even for the average user. We can look at the top users in a moment. But Sahagin's still being taken, and we can see where Sahagin goes. Sahagin goes 651, which isn't like terrible, and this is not going to stay this way. People are going to learn about Sahagin. Sahagin is, I mean, the card's the nuts. Like I've played a lot of Sahagins in this format. Um, Unsurprising to see this be taken. I mean, people do value this type of removal maybe a little too high, and we see this here as well. Ice Magic not necessarily being taken too high, though. Syncopate, sort of properly valued. The Scorpion Sentinel. I mean, just both of the... Interestingly, Scorpion Sentinel performing a lot worse than Sahagin. I think the two are, they're not interchangeable. Sahagin's better, but the Scorpion Sentinel I've found to be pretty good. The other stuff, and interesting Alsa stuff. There's not a ton of Alsa. Like Blue's Alsas are mostly getting to be in line with where they should, I feel, at this point. So on to the top player data for Blue, and Dreams of Laguna is your top winning Blue card. Particularly by game and hand win rate. That's strange. I guess it's tied with Combat Tutorial. The two draw spells and Dragoon's Wyvern is basically right there as well. As I talked about, again, it does tend to smooth out for top users the win rates of commons. Sahagin is here. ATA 769. Scorpion Sentinel. Scorpion Sentinel, and this is sort of what I was, the point I was making is that I felt like Scorpion Sentinel was fine and like somewhat comparable to Sahagin, and this win rate actually sort of shows why. Now, the opening hand does decrease significantly for the Scorpion Sentinel, but it's still serviceable. Syncopate, performing fine for top users. I think Syncopate, it's interesting, the thing with Syncopate in this format is it was so mediocre on the last set, partially because it didn't exile that version of Syncopate in Blue. And also there was just other better counter spells that were cheap that you could use. But Syncopate in this format when you need like a 2-mana spell in your deck, I found the first copy of Syncopate to be pretty decent. The second copy I don't love, but I think it's okay. Stuck in the Summer Sanctum, not winning a lot, so it's definitely something to try to avoid if you can. Rook Turret, obviously bad. And the Curian Merchant. The Merchant, I just think it's just not really anything interesting. This 2-drop, notably not especially great. And then Alsa was... It is taken appropriately late, so... We will continue our journey on to black. For everybody, Sephiroth's Intervention is your best. And then we have Cornered by Black Mages. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Cornered by Black Mages, a card that I was wrong about in my set review. I'm surprised at the win rate of this card for several reasons. The first reason I'm surprised by how high its win rate is the double pip nature of the card. The double pip nature of the card really does tend to make a dent in card performance. And this one, I saw this in the set review and was like, double pip is just a death knell for this type of effect, because sacrifice effects, generally you want to be able to cast them on time. You want to be like, when it's good, you need to be able to cast it and cash in, because otherwise you're not going to get the value. That's just not the case with Cornered by Black Mages. Now, I do think that if you just take Cornered by Black Mages and you put it in a normal Magic the Gathering set, this is pretty bad. It wouldn't be as bad as I thought it would be preset, because the 01 does matter, but the fact that you can make Like once you get two wizards on board, which is pretty easy to do, and this is helping you do that, you just have a clock. I drafted a deck with like six of these. It didn't do well in like 3-3, which was better than it deserved. But like I won a couple of games by literally just casting like three copies of this, and then just like sitting there and casting spells and burning people out. You can do it. It's a thing you can do in this set. Um, the fact that you're getting the extra body really does make this card good, and it goes. I mean, it honestly is going at about appropriate spots. Now, why is resentful revelation is going too late for now, and we'll see if that continues. Treachery going second, above Quarterback Black Mages, which I actually agree with. I actually think that I would probably take the first copy of Vane's Treachery before I would take this, because this requires a little bit more help. This is 2 mana, this is 3. Vane's Treachery in your opening hand. I mean, it is worse. It is worse still. I do think it is a worse card, but the mana cost on the card perhaps helping it out. Marlborough, the best of the land cyclers. Actually, that's not true. I think the green one's probably better, but it's pretty good. Hectize has been mediocre. I'm curious for top users how Hectize has been performing. Very mediocre for top users as well. It's actually the same. No, it's not quite the same order. Resentful Revelation is number one for top users. I don't advise taking Resentful Revelation like it's the best black common, but I do think this card has been very good, and it's even overperformed my high expectations for it. Like I thought this card would be pretty good, and I saw some people not really like it in the set review. I was like, I'm gonna give this, a tier 3 grade, and I think it's lived up to that expectation, and maybe is even closer to a tier 2 card. Although again, when would you actually pick it, and it's probably closer to tier 3. Um, for that. Shinra Reinforcements is good. The life gain off of it, and if you're making use of the mill with Resentful Revelation or other things, it is definitely usable. Um, Interestingly, like this card has no data from top players, which is really an indication that you shouldn't be playing it. It's not very good. Vinland's Limit quite bad. Amazon Trader is fine, but not great. The Rat, similarly. There's a bunch of like fillery commons you can just play, and it's kind of okay. But Hectize so far, it does seem like there's currently not quite enough to do with it in the set for it to be worth going after and prioritizing. Alright, on to red. Thunder Magic, your clear best red common. Pretty much nothing in the Stratosphere. Call the Mountain Chocobo and Suplex are sort of your next. And then we have Blazing Bomb at number 4. A testament to the blue-red deck, because you really wouldn't play this anywhere else, I don't think. Like, red-white doesn't want it. Red-green, maybe. Maybe a red-green deck. I could see that. Because red-green does want the Call the Mountain Chocobos. Basically, Call the Mountain Chocobo plus Blazing Bomb is like a package. Like, this is like the thing that you're doing a little bit. Warrior Sword also with Blazing Bomb, pretty decent. Light of Judgment, wow. Your 6 plus red common, and this is sort of where we talk about red not having great commons, and there really are not that many of them. Down here, Haste Magic. This is a little bit of a surprise. I mean, I obviously misread the card in my set review. I thought it was the same as the one from Phyrexial B1. It is not the same, but even if without it being the same, you would have thought it'd be better than this. Yeah, it turns out it just isn't at all. So, quite bad. And also, this is just not what Red's really doing in this set. Red doesn't care about that. GFF Freak being down here, there's a lot of like really low win rate red commons. I'm gonna take a look at top users and see if there's anything. So here's where the average commons end for top users. Warrior's Sword, sort of average. Laughing Bad is okay, and we are getting into small samples here, but GFF Freak's still not performing well. Just kind of a lot of red commons that you really don't want to play in your deck, even if you're a good player. So that's why I think red is probably statistically the worst color, just at common. It really is kind of missing out, and its 2 mana removal spell is fine. That's a tier 2 card. It's being drafted close to that range. It's worse than Thunder Magic, which I definitely agree with. I would definitely take Thunder Magic over it. And I don't know about Call of Mountain Chocobo over it, but I probably would. I probably should. I think that's honestly reasonable if you're doing the red thing. Final color, green, also a candidate for, quote unquote worst at common. Town Greeter, your best common, and then Fat Chocobo. Sort of your two like really good green commons. The kick is fine. It's reasonable removal. The T-Rex is kind of fine. Kubu Gardener, sort of whatever. There's a bunch of just like medium commons that I'm not a huge fan of. Blitzball Shot, interestingly, this effect we've seen be really good for a really long time, and in this set it just isn't. I forget the last time that we had this card, but this is essentially a reprint. And at every set before, it's been pretty decent, and this one it just isn't. I think it's not, I don't know. Green's doing different things in this set. You're very predictable cards that were going to be bad are bad. That's not a surprise. Commune with Beavers, you can sort of play as a land if you really want, but it's never a priority. So not really anything exciting for all users. Let's take a look at the top user stuff. Still not very exciting. The Ochu is up a little bit. It's really just these three commons, to be honest with you. It's Greeter, Fat Chocobo, Chocobo Kick. Although the Ochu and the Gardener are performing a little bit less bad for the top users. Blitzball Shot's still not very good. And a bunch of like not playable stuff, huh? I mean, it's playable, but I'm not happy about it. I am a little surprised to see Bard's Bow be down here, but I'm not that surprised because it is just a 3-mana 3/3 reach, pretty much. The equip cost being 6 is too much. Do we have a multicolor commons? Colorless commons that aren't lands. It's going to be tough to find because all the lands are here and they're all very good. The ramen is bad. World map is pretty bad. It's bad fixing. Blitzball. We need to have a talk about Blitzball because there were people during set review season that were saying Blitzball was going to be just like the other manoliths we've seen this year. And there were some of us in the room that said, no, Blitzball, not as good. You have to attack and make contact with the legendary creature. That's pretty hard to do, and so far the data is bearing that out as not something that you want to be doing in this set. There's plenty of other ways to get mana into your deck. Shout out Iron Giant. Amazing. The boat's not very good. I'm trying to think if there's any of those. These are all the lands. All the lands are like fine. Oh, Monk's Fist. Monk's Fist actually is reasonable. Monk's Fist is actually the only colorless common I care about. Shout out Adventures in. It's pretty good. It's actually a pretty reasonable like replacement level 2 drop that you can actually play, and it's not bad. Like you'll see this in a lot of games, and I think for top users, it's probably not going to perform super well, but you're going to see it. Yeah, right at about average, just a tick below average in terms of win rate for the format opening hand right here. Just a nice little like you can play a one copy of it, and you're actually not too unhappy. It's an artifact. It's an equipment. It kind of does all these things. Shout out to Adventurers In being the top one for top players. Don't play Adventures In. Don't do it. Just don't do it. There's only 700 games of it. Don't do it. Don't play it. Monk's Fist has 3,000. So again, the data is a bit sparse. It is still week one. It's early, but especially the top player stuff is never going to be perfect. On to the uncommons, and we will see the Dragoon's Lance and Choco Comet are tied, essentially with Katana for your three best uncommons. And this is where red makes up for some of its lack of strength at common, is these two very strong uncommons. Really just a lot of powerful uncommons here in the top. You'll notice that there's not actually a ton of blue. There's only one blue uncommon that isn't a blue-red gold card in the top, like part of these commons. And then you can get down to ultras and eject and whatever. But, blue not as strong at uncommon. It's more red, it's some green, it's some black, a little bit of white. So more of a mix at uncommon, I would say. Currently your best signpost, Cloud of Darkness. That was the expectation going into the set. Shantoto at number 2. Wouldn't have been my pick, but definitely up there. Here's Torgal. Hello, Torgal. Ultros, a card that I was undeniably incorrect about, but was directionally moving in the right direction on in the set review where I saw it and I was like, ah, this is bad. And then I like moved it up, and I didn't move it up enough. But I did to my credit at least move it from unplayable to a spot where you could play it. Turns out it's just insane. Really, just the whole package just worked. If the whole package didn't work, it would be terrible. But the whole package does work. So I do think Ultros is here. Lightning Bolt, unfortunately, a bit washed. That's my sweet child. It can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. Lightning Bolt can do no wrong, and yet people are somehow doing wrong with it, and this is upsetting to me. Quickly for the top users for uncommons, there's really not that much sample size here. Counterspell moves up a bunch, sure. Lightning Bolt's still not up here. It's down here. Still an above average card for top users, but actually not by as much for them. So Dane up here. Interesting. Not a huge surprise. I mean, this card's good. I just don't know. I should really want it. Sorcerer's the Scheme is probably your biggest mover up. Again, it does work with the 4 mana cost thing. It gives you like 8 triggers on that, so it's really sick. Fenrir, very good. Sort of a lot of contenders for your quote unquote best uncommon in the set. But none of them are so overwhelming that you feel like one of them has to be like a mythic uncommon or whatever. All right, we're not gonna look at top player data for the individual colors, but I will take a look at each color for uncommons quickly. Is there anything interesting here? No, I mean all these look pretty strong. They're pretty strong. Wall of Omens, I guess, a card to call out as a reasonable card, and not necessarily what White's doing all the time. But if you are in a deck that wants to play it, it is pretty like if you're not in a deck that's trying to smash, which is kind of what White's doing. But if you aren't doing that, and even if you are, it's kind of okay. Anything else I want to talk about? No, all this stuff is mostly obvious. Yeah. Stroke of Midnight once again finding its way to the bottom of whatever win rate list you put it on, because that's what it does. Also the Elsa, embarrassing. Truly embarrassing. Restoration Magic is okay. I don't really have a lot of like hot takes about the weight uncommons. Most of the two drops are all really good. Adalbert is I've had it be more of a miss for me than a hit, to be honest. Like it's been kind of okay. You really do need to have like the white white really does play well as like a mono white deck because it's like, oh, I want all the white, I want all this equipment, and I want all this stuff, and all the and the more of it I have, the better it is. So like mono white, I really think is probably the best way to play white. Blue white would probably be my second favorite. I've played a decent amount of blue white, but the Lance I think is your top white common. It just makes all your creatures have flying for the rest of the game. That's pretty good. On to blue, and as I said, a little bit underwhelming. It's just Swallowed by Leviathan, and Swallowed by Leviathan is barely above average for. Oh no, this is not top users. This is for everybody. So no, it's not. It's pretty significant. Um, Anything interesting? Oh, so this card's actually performing reasonably well. Its opening hit rate's terrible, but that's not a huge surprise. It's not a priority. Like I would take Pixie over it. I'd take Counterspell over it. I would take. I guess I wouldn't take Travel the Overworld over it. Maybe I would. Quistis I'd probably take over it though. I like Quistis. Sketching is kind of whatever. Brainstorm is here. Brainstorm is fine. I think there's a lot of people are sort of two minds about Brainstorm. They're kind of like both minds are wrong, really. Brainstorm is just basically just an average card. It's not a priority. Like you don't want to take it like a 481 Elsa, but you probably shouldn't really be cutting it from your deck. It's probably too good to cut. I don't think there's enough top player data on Brainstorm. I'm interested to see what it is, but there isn't. There's enough for Counterspell though, which becomes your second best uncommon. Ah, oh wow, look at this. I haven't actually looked at this. Wow. I didn't know this existed yet. I mean, I had seen it before, but I didn't know it. Wow, this is okay. We might need to get deeper into the dives here, because now I can look at some individual cards and deck win rates and whatever. Um, that's a thing. That's a thing to look at. That's cool. So That didn't used to exist. I guess Brainstorm. I'll look at that for Brainstorm then. There's not enough data because it is a rare, I think. I know it says it's uncommon. I don't understand the rarities for the bonus sheet. The Art of Blue artifact stuff sort of like low on the list. Valkyrie aerial unit kind of underperforming. I think it's a fine card, but you don't want to take it highly because it really is only a blue-white card, I think. Like, what other deck would you really want to play artifacty stuff in? Maybe blue-black? I don't. I mean, there is blue-black, but it's not really. But not really. It really is just white, like blue-white. I think. Same with the cargo boat. I like the cargo boat, but only in blue-white. And that is it for my blue uncommons. Travel the overworld. I guess I would say. How many towns do you need to play Travel the Overworld? It depends on what your deck's trying to do, but like if you have 3 towns, you can probably play this. You probably should play 1 or 2 tap lands that are half on color in your deck if you're playing one of these. Again, it depends on what your deck's doing, but if your deck is interested in a big draw spell, which most of the blue decks are, but there's just other ways to get draw as we've seen. So something to keep in mind. On to black. Sidequest Hunt the Mark, one of the best uncommons in the set. Very powerful. It's a threat that it's hard to deal with. More very, very strong black removal, just like Fatal Push, Overkill, whatever. Like, black's removal in this set is. It might be the best removal suite we've ever had at common and uncommon in a limited set ever. Like, you Fatal Push, Overkill, Cornered by Black Mages, Sephiroth's Intervention, Vayne's Treachery. Like, these are all, like all of black's removal is just really, really, really good. So, something to keep an eye out for. Circle of Power. Here it is. Another card. I mean, it's performing pretty well. I can't say I'm super surprised. I'm a little surprised that it's this high, but I did expect it to be better than your average version of this effect. Eagle Reawakened right on target, sort of what you would expect. Sir Conrad. Basically, right where I ended up with him. The I adjusted down for Eldraine's like for this set's power level, and it seems they also have 295 is probably a bit rich, but I'll bet Salvagers is fine. Deadly Dispute, again, kind of right on the money there. Final Days performing better than I would have thought, although again it does work with the mill stuff. Shout out Tonberry. You can do Tonberry things in this set. Like, it is actually like doable. You know what's funny? Yeah, after all this, it's like, yep, Tonberry, average. What did Spencer give it? Average. So that's feel pretty good about that. The train is on the horizon. Summon Anima, I was surprised to see it that low. I'm not surprised to see this low because it's quite bad. Even though I say I'm not gonna do this, I'm gonna keep doing it because I have brain disease. Final Day is up here for top players. The train is up here, above average. A very, very small sample. Seems like that card might be playable. Might be usable. I'm surprised Demon Wall is this low. I mean, I'm not like that surprised. It is 2-minute 3/3 defender. Why am I doing that? I don't know. I don't know. On to red. Red uncommons. We talked about Comet. We talked about Samurai Lightning Bolt. Unfortunately, a little bit washed. Very sad. Sorcerer's Schemes, even for the average player, actually performing reasonably well. Opening hand quite low, but a good card. It's also 7/18, which is too late. Captain Lineary Storm's in here. I think Captain Lineary Storm's fine. It doesn't excite me. It's okay. Fire Magic. Look at you, Fire Magic. The first copy of Fire Magic I think is quite good. I found Prompto. Bad Freya has been kind of bad. And red we kind of see again. Like, it has some premium uncommons, but it really does sort of fall off, like similar to its commons at the end down here. Playboat's ball quite bad. Sandworm, I'm surprised it's this low, but I'm not surprised that much about Barrett Wallace. Brane, I'm not surprised is this low. Esperama, I'm not that surprised. Not that surprised about this one because again, it's not. Whatever. I kind of misread some of those parts of the thing. But yeah, I mean the top of the top is great for red, and that's why it plays so well with blue. Like the best cards play really well in blue red, and that's the deck you want to be if you're playing red. Even red black can also work a little bit. For green, Fenrir and Saw's Chocobo. Saw's Chocobo opening went right down to 66. Was higher than that. Torgal, which I would have bet would have been the best. Actually, I think I probably would have bet on Fenrir. I don't know. These two were close for me. Colosseum Behemoth, actually kind of a pleasantly surprisingly high win rate. I assume for top users it's not actually that high. No, it's up here. Wow. Okay. So probably a little underrated then. I mean, it's not like underdrafted, like underrated like draft wise, but I'm probably underrating it a bit. Even though I rated it exactly this high, I was like, yep, gonna be pretty good, but not amazing. And yeah, Diamond Weapon, not so great. Finn the Fangbearer, a bit of a downgrade from its Kaldheim lifestyle. Sad, frankly. Farseek is okay. Yeah, Quinoa's not very good. Not a surprise. So Racetrack is all the way down here. I'm curious where Racetrack is for top users. It's still all the way down. It's actually worse. Wow, that's rare. That's impressive. Hold on. It's genuinely has a lower win rate for top users than it does for all users. All right, I'm just gonna say it. Probably don't play that card. That is so Chocobo Racetrack is the definition of a card that is baiting good players into thinking they're smarter than everybody else. I do think that it's not completely unplayable, but that's too much. 393. That is going to be too much to bear. On to the multicolored stuff. We talked about Cloud of Darkness. It's your best card. Shintoto and then Palamecia, the next two. And then Zidane. Kind of a surprise that it would be this high. It is, Zealous Conscripts. I actually haven't seen a ton of red white around, just because I'm not drafting it. We all know that the matchmaking system, for whatever reason, tries to incentivize mirrors. This is a conspiracy theory. The following information is not true and is based on my own interpretation of events. I guess the previous information and the following information that I'm about to repeat. But Ignis is here, and then Omega. Just a bunch of good ones. Just a bunch of good ones. A bunch of good, solid cards. Garland is another one that I feel like I kind of nailed in the previous season, where I was like, the rate on this card is like the best uncommon, but the fact that red black is just not going to be that good makes it worse, and I think that has largely borne out. Also, it doesn't get any help from Black Waltz number 3, which is unplayable. We have a couple of. Oh, look who it is! Look at Titus. Another moment of gloating for me here. Yeah, this is an all-time bad performance from this type of effect, which just isn't that good anymore. I know people love this thing, and like Bola Slinger's fine and whatever, but like this is just like it's not 2016 anymore. Like we're not doing this anymore, and people continue to get like sold on this style of effect that I'll never understand. Um, Not baited by that. I was a little baited by Garnet, I will say that, and I was also baited by Gyot. I don't know, unpronounceable name. The black white, it's interesting because black white has like these two uncommons that I look at and I'm like, these are great. Although this one I don't, not so much, but this one at least, it's like, yeah, this is really good. I think part of the problem is that black's removal suite is, again, as we mentioned, so good that just anything that needs to like grow and doesn't get value immediately is pretty bad. Here's Gladiolus. We actually are probably gonna have enough data from top users on these. Not really enough. Not really. Zidane is number 1. Then we have here's Garland. So top users preferring the Garland Life. And then Cloud of Darkness. But again, as we see, it does kind of flatten out a bit. It's flat for bottom users too in this case. Yeah, I don't know, not a ton of data here. Tight is still really bad. Don't play it. Dolphin's Veto, not playable either. We'll look at the colorless cards. Is there anything? UFO is here. Lionheart is here. The ring is here. Kind of sad to see the ring down here, but it is what it is. Elixir, yeah. I mean, what were you expecting? All right, that's it for most of the individual card stuff. Now time for a random rant on just the rares for a bit. Smuggler's Copter. I guess I'll just do everything. Let's put all the stuff in. Atraxa and Smuggler's Copter are your two best cards in the set. Specifically, they are on the bonus sheet. There's not a ton of data for them, but I don't know. I would be shocked if Smuggler's Copter. Smuggler's Copter should probably have the lowest Elsa number on this whole sheet. Dion currently, let's actually look at the Elsa leaders. Buster Sword, fine. That's fine. The card's really good. Sephiroth at 2. I mean, not terrible. Bahamut 3. Kinda terrible. Kinda terrible. I think we nailed it though. I mean, the opening hand win rate is awful on Bahamut. It's truly something to behold. Knights of the Round. Not quite in that tier 1 category. This is always an interesting mix, right? The Elsa numbers. So one of those cops are at like 10 at the moment, which probably is just because people can't read the card because the text is so illegible. So that's probably what's going on here. People just they're also just new players because it is Final Fantasy and people don't know. But Urza, very good. A lot of artifacts. Dion, strong. 8 Ardan, Arden, Katsuroy. We got Nibelheim Flame. Nibelheim Flame was a surprise, based on how Waltz of Rage looked in what's it called? Duskmorn. But it is just it has flashback and it also uh works well with the four stuff. It also plays really well with Sahagins because you can cast it on your Sahagins and then they all stay alive and they kill your opponent's board. It's really good. So Nibelheim Flame is pretty sick. There's a lot of like really powerful rares in this set, partially due to Cryptic Command up here despite the mana cost. That's a surprise. I am surprised the Cryptic Command is up here despite the mana cost. So that is a shock to me a little bit. Chroma's Will, a card that I was wrong about because I don't like this style of card, but obviously very powerful. Prime Time, another card that maybe we're getting too cute with the evals. Did get SRAM right. Is there anything I really want to talk about? I mean, it is kind of very rare and mythic heavy at the top here. No uncommons anywhere in sight until Dragoon's Lands, which is currently your top uncommon, and it's literally like nowhere near the top 20. Usually you'll see 1 or 2 uncommons get in there, and actually, I generally think the format is. It depends, right? Like, is the format better when that's the case? Is it worse when it's the case? You can make arguments either way. Have seen some Cloud of Darknesses going late. Any other surprises? I don't really think so. I think I feel pretty good. I feel good about what we've gone over today. I guess I can take a quick look at the format speed and see if there's anything. Going on here. Here it is, right here, right with OTJ. This is kind of the new area we've settled in. Settled right around here. Which is about a full half a turn faster than Aether Rift, a little bit slower than Wilds of Eldraine. It's going to be pretty tough to leave this area. This is kind of like where all the sets are now. Bloomburrow down here, 1 down here. I mean, there's all the alchemy stuff is down here because obviously all the alchemy cards are broken. Turn length, we can compare it to TDM. Where is that? Let's compare it. Can't find it. Can't. Oh, there we go. Compared to TDM, a little bit longer, even a little bit of a longer game state than in Tarkir. Again, very close though. So I think this has maybe some. There's some of this. I don't really want to do too much of that. That's it. That's gonna be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please, subscribe, watch the other videos, other content. If you like limited content, I've been streaming more, so feel free to check that out. See ya.